What's going on is the Buckeyes get ready Wednesday for that matchup with the Ducks.
Yeah, I think media days are always just more about vibes, right? And trying to see where people's heads are at and what the momentum could look like. And I think for Oregon, a lot of the vibes are they're leaning into this potentially being the biggest game of the year, part two. We know that first game, 32-31, they won that game. And what I think was the most impressive showing of the two teams who I think are the two best teams in the country. And we might get that again, just in a more historic venue at the Rose Bowl this time around. And Oregon players seem to be leaning more into that idea of how big of a deal this is, while Ohio State's really trying to business mentality. This is a work trip. We're not trying to make too much of it. And I think what you're just seeing is the contrast of two different programs, right? Ohio State's a blue blood who has long been a national championship contender and has long been in the conversation. This isn't anything new to them. This is just another step in the journey they want to take. While for Oregon, yes, they played in the national championship a decade ago. They've been in this before, but it's not their norm. They're not a blue blood. They're not a team who is got this long history of dominance in college football. And so this is maybe the peak of what Oregon football is supposed to be under Dan Lanning at this point. And so they are kind of taking it all in. It doesn't mean that they're not ready to play on Wednesday. In fact, it means that they might be a little bit more hyped up to play on Wednesday. But it is going to be interesting to see which, I guess, vibe ends up mattering more when we get to the game Wednesday. The team who maybe was a little bit more locked in and not tried to get too high or too low in the moment versus the team who is leaning all the way into how important this game is.
So I know you wrote an article. Do you think Ohio State's preparing for another air show from Oregon?
I do. I mean, the last time these two teams played, both quarterbacks are over 300 yards. I think that's what it takes to win these types of games is you've got to score points, you've got to be able to generate offense, and a lot of times it can come down to whose quarterback outplayed the other quarterback. And I think in a lot of ways, Dylan Gabriel ended up winning that matchup the last time. You remember the long touchdown run he had. He also just made less mistakes than what Will Howard made. And so Ohio State showed us their formula. In fact, we all knew the formula. They just needed to go do it against Tennessee. That should be the formula again against Oregon, but also Oregon is a team who also should probably be using that formula. So I expect both of these teams to be trying to find ways to be explosive on offense.